If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place. This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
He's got it! Touchdown! Jack Doyle! And he's going to be brought down inside the 15, and it's going to go to DeForest Buckner. Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
From the Power Home Solar Studio, let's get the podcast started.
Welcome to yet another all-new Colts official podcast, and for a second consecutive week, it is the substitute teacher sitting in as Jeffrey Gorman continues his lavish vacation, as I said, sunning himself on the West Coast. So Matt Taylor is with me holding it down.
I don't think he's coming back.
He may not. And we are joined by the esteemed Bill Brooks, former Colts receiver, Ring of Honor inductee, and Colts radio analyst. We have so much to get through, so much to discuss over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to get Bill's thoughts on the Colts moves and free agency, including the massive return of T.Y. Hilton in 2021 and exactly how Carson Wentz will improve the Colts offense next season. We're going to discuss the NFL's move to now a 17-game regular season starting this fall, and also break down the Colts' biggest needs heading into the draft later this month. It is draft month.
It is.
It is draft month. How crazy is that? And also, before we get into football talk, one thing, it is Bill Brooks' birthday. We got to talk about that. Happy birthday to our Ring of Honor member, Bill Brooks.
Absolutely.
And also a huge applause and celebration for the city of Indianapolis and what they were able to do over the last month in hosting the NCAA men's tournament. We crowned a champion last night. Indy showed off why it is such a phenomenal sports town and the best sports hosting city in the U.S. So one word just there for Indianapolis. Kudos.
100%.
You guys did it right.
No doubt about it. You know, all the different moving pieces, whether it was people at the Indiana Sports Corp or people in downtown Indy and, you know, Pacers Sports and Entertainment, all the administration folks, the maintenance folks at Hinkle Fieldhouse,
our friends at Lucas Oil Stadium, who we work with.
I mean, Mike Stevens and Chris Buckley in terms of, you know, the technology and, I mean, just all the cables. I mean, looking at it from afar, I mean, I took my daughter to a game at Lucas Oil Stadium just for the heck of it, just because I wanted to see the setup and all that went into it. I took her to see Rutgers versus Houston, but I just wanted to see how the facility looked and all those cables and wires and, you know, the Jumbotron coming in and having to partition off the stadium and dividing it into two with two different courts. I mean, there's no other venue, no other city that could have done it better. And, you know, just kind of reading all of the articles and some of the stuff that came out after the tournament, the minimal amount of hiccups, the minimal amount of, you know, bumps in the road that went down over the course of 3.5 weeks with 68 teams and all those different people and the protocols and the testing. Hats off to you, Indianapolis. Hats off to you, because nobody could have pulled it off better, especially when they found out they were going to have to do this thing in about 3.5 months. Fantastically done. And Bill, I know you're probably watching the ball games like the rest of us. What was your favorite part about Indianapolis and all those historic venues like Mackey and Hinkle and Assembly Hall hosting these big games on a national scale?
Well, I agree with you both, Matt and Larra, on what Indianapolis did here for the Final Four and hosting all the teams. But the people I want to talk about are the volunteers.
Yeah.
The volunteers spending their time taking care of the teams, making sure everything went smoothly, anything they needed from places to go to where to get something to eat. And then those volunteers had to quarantine themselves. So they had to make sure that they were safe, and so they could be around the players and the teams and also be away from their families. So give the volunteers a lot of credit, as well as the individuals you guys mentioned earlier. The city and the state of Indiana did a phenomenal job of just hosting this thing, and it shows what Indiana and Indianapolis can do with big, major sporting events.
And we all cannot wait for the next big major sporting event in the way of the Indianapolis Colts 2021 season, because there is so much excitement based on what has been done over the past few weeks looking ahead to the draft. When you look at the trade for Carson Wentz, re-signing guys like T.Y. Hilton and Xavier Rhodes and Al-Quadin Muhammad. Let's first, Bill, get your perspective looking now at kind of in a greater landscape with the NFL and some of the quarterback trades that were made. The first kind of domino to fall was the Matt Stafford trade to the Rams, and more recently we just saw Sam Darnold being traded to the Carolina Panthers. Looking at the Colts trade for Carson Wentz and, of course, all of that familiarity that he has with Frank Reich, given the value that Chris Ballard was able to get Carson Wentz at, how satisfied are you with that trade for Carson and how he fits and amplifies this offense?
I'm ecstatic to have Carson Wentz here. I think what Chris Ballard did and Frank Reich to orchestrate that trade and give up a third-round pick this year and a conditional second-round pick next year, I think they did a phenomenal job in just getting a quarterback, a young quarterback that was the number 2 pick in the 2016 draft, and someone that played great his first couple of years, and actually 1 year had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and that was an MVP year that he was having right before he got hurt. The team went to the Super Bowl and had a Super Bowl win and did a nice job, of course, with Nick Foles there and getting the Super Bowl win. But him being here with the weapons that the Colts have and Jonathan Taylor and getting Marlon Mack back, and of course T.Y. and Michael Pittman, Desmond Patton. I just am excited about what's going to happen this year in the 2021 football season with the Indianapolis Colts. So I think the trade was great for the Colts, and I think it's going to pay big dividends, not just this year, but in the future as well.
Now, I want to talk more about Carson Wentz, Bill, but I want to talk about your birthday. What are you doing later on tonight? How does Bill Brooks get it done on his birthday? I did just kind of brush over that, didn't I?
Well, hey, look, no, this is the peak of my day, being on with Matt.
I feel
and
sorry
Larra.
for you.
So this is the peak of my day. This is my birthday wish to be on with you two guys. So I am having the time of my life right now.
Well, that's we need to do something about that, Bill. We have to rectify that, because if that's the case, you're not living your best life here, because Larra and I are a bunch of jamokes compared to you.
Oh no, you guys are the best.
Well, let's get more into Carson. Once Phillip Rivers decided to retire and Carson Wentz was brought in here via the trade, I mean, those are two different quarterbacks, as you know, Bill, two different skill sets. They both get it done at a very high level. But how do you think this offense will look kind of subtly different in 2021 with Carson compared to how it looked in 2020 with the cerebral nature of a Phillip Rivers?
Well, I think one of the things you're going to see differently with this type of offense, you're going to see Carson Wentz moving around in the pocket a little bit more than Phillip Rivers. Carson is more mobile than Phillip Rivers, and Carson can get out of the pocket and do some different things. He can do some bootlegging, you can do a couple of naked reads and things of that nature. And also, you probably see some RPOs, some run-pass options with Carson Wentz back there and him being a big target and having those reads where he can, of course, hand the ball off or he can make a throw depending on what the defense does with the run-pass option. So I think you will see a lot more of that. And also, you'll probably see the quarterback scramble a lot more. He's definitely a lot more mobile than Phillip Rivers, and he can buy some time to move around the pocket and let the receivers get open down the field and throw the ball down the field and hit some big plays. And I think you'll see a lot more big plays down the field as well with his strong arm, and not just a strong arm, but an accurate arm that he likes to throw the deep ball and throws it very well.
A lot of people have pointed to the similarities that there are in the style of play and the physicality of Carson Wentz to Andrew Luck. And it's so well documented, of course, the success that Andrew and T.Y. had together. And I know that's one thing that Frank Reich embedded into the mind of T.Y. Hilton when he was exploring free agency was, hey, you remember all those special things you and Andrew used to do together, his ability to extend plays and your ability to get into the right positions to make those really dynamic offenses possible. When you look at T.Y. Hilton, 31 years old, as a receiver, What do you have to do differently? You played more than a decade in the league. What do you have to do a little bit differently or be more mindful of at maybe 30-31 as a veteran receiver to try to get back to that same form that we saw with Andrew and T.Y., now with Carson and T.Y., although T.Y. is in that latter part of his career?
Yeah, I think with T.Y. and getting to this part of his career, the thing that T.Y. needs to do is make sure he takes care of his body. As you get older and you age and you've taken some hits throughout the years, your body gets banged up a little bit and you might start to slow down a little bit. I don't think T.Y. slowed down that much. If it is, it's very, very little. So you have to start taking care of your body a little bit better, a little bit differently than maybe you had in the past. And those little aches and pains, you have to address them right away and not let them linger, because usually as you get older, you might recuperate on Wednesday when you're 25, but when you get in your 30s, you might feel better on Thursday or Friday. So it takes a little longer to recuperate from the game. So as long as T.Y. can take care of his body, take care of himself, which he has in the past, I don't see him changing anything right now of taking care of himself. I can't see why T.Y. can't have one of those big years like he had before when Andrew Luck was playing in 2015 or 2014, where T.Y. had over 1,000 yards receiving and had over 60 catches in both those years, and also in 2016. So I don't see why T.Y. can't have a big year this year like he has before. The only thing that might happen differently is that the ball might be spread around to other receivers a little bit more, because Frank Reich likes to spread the ball around, and I'm sure Carson Wentz will spread the ball around as well to the running backs, to Michael Pittman, to the tight end. So I'm looking forward to this offense. This is the type of offense that I'd like to look at, an offense that spreads the ball around, keeps everybody involved in the game, and you never know which player on which given week is going to be the guy, so to speak.
Bill, certainly going back to last season, Carson Wentz didn't have the season in 2020 that he would have liked. And, some of the main themes this offseason with Frank Reich when talking about, trying to get the best out of Carson Wentz, we hear a lot about building confidence, instilling confidence, both ways with the player, with the coach and the player, but also getting Carson back in rhythm, building up his rhythm again. What do you think he means by that? And then obviously you've played with a lot of great quarterbacks, and you kind of know it when you see it, right? When you see a quarterback that is on time and in rhythm, what does that do for everybody around him in the huddle when, you can just see it. This guy's in the zone, and everything with this guy is clicking to help the overall offense?
I think a couple of key words you said there. The guy's clicking, the guy's in the zone. And when you're in the zone and when you're clicking, you have confidence in yourself. You have confidence in every play that comes in from the sidelines that, hey, this play is going to be successful. This play is going to work. We've seen it work in practice. We've seen it work in previous games. This play is going to work. So when the players see that the quarterback has confidence in the play, knowing that the play is going to work, and they go out there and the play is executed like it's supposed to and the play does work, it just builds more and more confidence. So I think right now what Frank is talking about is making sure Carson has confidence not only in just the plays that are being called, but in his teammates out there. Hey, don't try to do everything by yourself. Maybe he's guilty of that in last year in Philadelphia, I'm not sure. But as long as he can go out there and say, hey, look, I have T.Y. I can get the ball to T.Y. He's going to make a big play. Oh, you know what? I can just hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. He's going to make a big play. He's going to get us in the right position at the right time. You know what? The offensive line is going to pick up this blitz or pick up this stunt. It's going to give me time to get the ball down the field. As long as he has confidence in what the plays are being called and his teammates, and they're going out there executing it, to me, that's getting in rhythm. Him having comfort and confidence in his teammates and what's going to happen in that play.
Bill, it's no secret that Carson's departure was met with a lot of criticism from fans in Philadelphia, from the media in Philadelphia, and he's, addressed a lot of that and the things that led to maybe his looking to have this fresh start and embracing a fresh start in Indianapolis. How confident are you in Frank Reich's ability to quote unquote resurrect a quarterback, so to speak, because of maybe what we see in his track record of taking a Phillip Rivers, who was 38 years old, coming off a 20 interception season, doing what he did in 2020. Andrew Luck coming off the injury situation that he did and bringing him back into form in 2018. Where's that confidence level in what Frank Reich can now do to put Carson Wentz in position to be back at that NFL MVP level, this time with the Indianapolis Colts versus where he was in Philadelphia?
Well, my confidence in Frank as a head coach is extremely high, and that's because just playing with him a couple years in Buffalo and just being around him and knowing him and his family and the things that he does, the things that he stands for, and how he cares about people. And I know he and Carson have a great relationship, and I think with that type of relationship, a player can be open with the coach and a coach can be open with the player. And I think that's what you need when you want to help someone be successful. And Frank's job is to put Carson in a position to be successful, not just Carson, but the whole team to be successful. And I'm very confident that Frank will have plays and have designs and that will give Carson some confidence and get Carson back to where he was in maybe in 2017 or 2018 and the things that he did as far as a quarterback. Frank knows him very well. And not just Frank, but, you have Press Taylor, who's over here right now, who coached Carson as well. So you have him. So you have a couple of people that have spent time with Carson Wentz that knows him as a person and know him as a player. And they can do some things to get Carson in a position to be successful. Give Carson confidence in what he's doing. Give Carson confidence in the plays that are being called. So I think they'll just go back to some basics, make sure that the fundamentals are right with Carson Wentz. And once you make sure the fundamentals are right and take care of those things, then everything will just build on itself, and he will get better. And once you handle the fundamentals, everything takes care of itself. And it's one thing that I remember when Peyton Manning was here, and Peyton Manning was probably maybe in his 8th or 9th year in the league, and he was working on basic drops. No one's around. He was out in the field by himself, just working on basic drops, dropping from the center, back, 5-step drop, 3-step drop, getting his body in position. Just doing that for about a half hour, 45 minutes, just working on his footwork. And those are the things that the good ones do day in and day out. They work on the fundamentals and make sure they have the fundamentals down and packed. So when it comes to the game time, those things are just second nature. It just happens that they do it. They're not thinking about it. And I think those are some of the things that the great quarterbacks will work on. And I think Carson Wentz is at that level where he will be working on those fundamentals, and he will be successful this year and in the years to come.
Bill, I want to switch over to the running game. Marlon Mack is back in free agency, which is awesome. Personally for him, that's outstanding news considering, tearing his Achilles in week 1, the second quarter, coming off a 1,000-yard season. But because of the emergence of Jonathan Taylor, finishing 3rd in the NFL and rushing, and I just think has limitless potential, even with Marlon Mack back this season. Last year we heard about the 1-1 punch in the running game. But I don't know if it's gonna be all about that this offseason, because that's how good Jonathan Taylor is, and I just don't know personally if I'm a head coach, I just don't know how many carries I want to take away from Jonathan Taylor. But it's great to have a home run threat and a big play threat back in Marlon Mack, but I still think Taylor's going to be that bell cow running back next season, despite Marlon Mack's return in free agency. Just curious on how you see that in terms of how that dynamic is going to work in the running game, especially on first and second down between Taylor and Mack.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Jonathan Taylor will be the workhorse there, but Marlon Mack's going to be the guy that's going to spell him. But is that really someone that's coming in relief, or that's just another weapon that the Colts have that they're going to use?
That's exactly how I see it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just as Nyheim Hines is a weapon that the Colts will use, and as Jordan Wilkins will be a weapon that the Colts use. So I think having those type of running backs on the team give the Colts a lot of options on how they can attack defenses. You have Jonathan Taylor, who's a big physical guy that can run between the tackles and get those tough yards. But he also can break the long one, as we saw last year against the Las Vegas Raiders. He broke that long touchdown run. And then you also have Marlon Mack, like you said, before the injury, had a 1,000-yard season. And he's very elusive, very quick, can hit the holes, run off tackle, and he also can run up the middle. So I think it's one of those things where Marlon Mack, if the injury, he's fine. I'm hoping that he's 100% back from that injury, and then let him go out and play, because I think we all were looking forward to Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor last year before the injury happened at the beginning of the season. I think if you had those two individuals there, I think actually, to be honest with you, Jonathan Taylor might not have as many yards, but I think Jonathan Taylor had just as good of a year as he had last year with Marlon Mack or without Marlon Mack. But I think Jonathan Taylor would have been rested, and also Marlon Mack would have been in his ear to kind of help him, guide him throughout the season, instead of doing it not just from afar, but just doing it from the classroom, where Marlon Mack could have showed him on the field how to do things. So I'm looking forward to the 1-2 punch. And in this year, upcoming year in the National Football League, you're going to have a 17-game season. So, I think having running backs that can go out there and be effective, and having a number of those guys on your team is just only going to bode well for the team going through a long season.
Looking at the opposite side of the ball, going to talk defense really quickly, because the move to bring back Xavier Rhodes, having that veteran presence for your cornerbacks, and you look to the fact that your cornerbacks coach from the previous few seasons, Jonathan Gannon, he departs and goes to Philadelphia to join Nick Sirianni there. You have James Rowe as the new position group coach for the cornerbacks. How significant is that stability to have Xavier Rhodes back kind of leading that room? Because one of the things we heard so much last year from Kenny Moore and Rock Yassin was how influential having a guy who has been in so many situations like Xavier Rhodes has, how much that helped this group continue to develop.
Larra, having a veteran presence in the room when you're in meeting rooms or out there in the practice field is huge for young guys, not just the young guys, but just other guys that are in the room that have experience in the National Football League. And having someone like Xavier Rhodes, who's been out there, who's done it, who's seen it all, who's participated at a very high level, knows what it takes, knows how to watch film, knows how to study, to help these young guys do the same thing in the meeting rooms, to study and how to prepare and get ready for not only a game, but how to get ready for a season, what the things they need to do. That is huge. That's invaluable, that you cannot replace. And so having someone like that in a meeting room, and having someone like that in a locker room, where he can bring some stability to the locker room, and that the guys can look to, that say, hey, this is what this guy's done, this is what he's doing. We need to make sure we follow him, because he's doing the things that's going to help us be successful throughout the season, not just throughout the season, but to help the team be successful and to help the room, the defensive backs, to be successful. So I think it was huge to bring him back. I think he had a great year last year. Bringing him back again to give some stability back there in the secondary, I think it's going to pay big dividends for the Colts.
And one thing we get to look forward to in 2021, not just for the Indianapolis Colts, but for the entire NFL, is a 17-game regular season. The league made it official last week, adding that game to the regular season schedule. First time in 43 years that they have increased the regular season slate, and then the trade-off for that is shortening the preseason by a game. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, right? Doing one less meaningless game is not going to make anyone upset. But when you look at adding that game and increasing the length of the season, Bill, do you like this move? Do you think that this needed to be done? Your immediate reaction to getting a little more regular season football now moving forward?
As a former player, I would probably say no for an extra game, but understanding what this past year has been like with the COVID and fans not being at the games and not having fans there. So I understand the league wanting to hopefully get some fans, more games, so fans can see their favorite NFL teams out there. You know what? People probably weren't complaining, but maybe rookies might complain. Without that extra preseason game, they might not get the look they need that last look that they may need to make a team. So for some rookies that get drafted this year or some free agents that are coming in that signing free agents not drafted, it might hurt them a little bit because they might not have an opportunity to get that extra look in that preseason game where they have an opportunity to make the team. So that's going to be interesting how the teams do use the players during the preseason with not only 3 preseason games and if things would change or not. But it'll be interesting to see. So I think it's one of those things where, just as before, we'll get used to it. We'll get used to playing 17 games in the National Football League, just as we went from 12 to 16. And it will move on. And I think the players would adapt to it because the players, they adapt very well. They'll adapt to it, and the coaches will adapt to it. And I think it will be successful. And some teams might like it because that last game might get them into the playoffs.
No doubt.
Everyone wants to get into the playoffs. So, it came to last game last year for the Colts to get in the playoffs, and they were successful. And it might come to some teams for that 17th week that will get them over the hump and get them in the playoffs. And you never know what can happen in the playoffs.
I don't want to oversimplify it, Bill, but I want to get your take as a former player. I mean, sort of how we got to this point, you've got 2 different sections of players, right? You've got the established guys who are on their 2nd and 3rd contracts. They don't necessarily want the game because they are established. And then you've got guys who are primarily on their rookie contracts and, the rank and file players, so to speak, which kind of represents a majority of the league. Those guys were okay with playing an extra game because that means more money in their pocket, right? I mean, the average NFL career is relatively short. Most guys don't get to that 2nd and 3rd contracts. Those players sort of outweighed the superstars and the established players by saying, you're going to give me an extra 6% of my salary, which is a pretty good salary for being a 21, 22, 23-year-old. I mean, not that these guys can live off that money for the rest of their lives, but they try to make this NFL experience, they try to capitalize on it, maximize it for as long as they can. That's why they're okay with playing a 17th game compared to guys like, Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman, who have been pretty outspoken about, the danger of playing an extra game. Just curious how you would have handled that discussion being a former player. If this CBA was up while you were still active in the NFL, how do you think you would have handled that? And just in terms of talking with your peers and handling discussions with agents and things like that?
Well, I think that's a good question, Matt. I think the one thing I would have thought about is I like to do things that's going to encompass everybody and it's going to benefit everybody, not just one group of people. So I think that looking at, if I was an older veteran, looking at the young guys who are coming in and saying, hey, look, you know what? These guys haven't made as much money as some of the older veterans have. And they want to, take care of their families. They want to make sure they're financially set. So let's go ahead and give it an extra game or extra week so these guys can make their money and give them an opportunity. Yes, it is a risk. Their health is at risk here as far as playing an extra game, one more chance to get injured, so to speak. But I think for the most part, everyone knows that going in to being an NFL player, that there is a risk that they might have a chance of getting injured. So I think I would have said, let's vote to have a 17th game and let's go out and play. And, you hope that during that season that maybe the coaches and maybe the teams could do things to kind of minimize the wear and tear on your body and chances of getting injured by doing some things with giving players maybe they might have to take some time off because we've seen it before. When teams have made the playoffs and they secured everything, a lot of the players are resting. They're not going to play in that end of the year game because they've won or they've secured their playoff spot and they can't improve their playoff spot. So they rest the frontline starters. And you know what? Maybe that happens with Russell Wilson.
Right.
Maybe they get into the playoffs at week 15. And, the last 2 weeks he might only play a couple quarters. So I think there's ways you can work around it. But having a 17th game actually doesn't bother me.
How about the early season bye, Larra? Last year we saw
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking taking a page from the NBA notebook, NBA playbook, and it's like load management. I just chuckled, right?
That lexicon is going to creep into NFL circles because last year the earliest bye was week 4. I don't know if that's going to hold true in a 17-game schedule, but if it does, week 4 or 5, you're talking about 13 or 14 straight weeks of playing games and putting your body through the ringer.
Well, what I'm looking at and anticipating, and this was something that I started thinking about after talking last week to TY and to Coach Reich, and specific to just what Bill was saying earlier about, taking care of your body when you're a 30-year-old receiver. One of the things that they did toward the end of last season, when T.Y. continued to be healthy, a way that they did that was by shortening his practice week.
Yeah,
they had him take
Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Exactly. Yeah, those
veterans
vet days.
Are going to have that day off.
Exactly. So you wonder how this will affect how teams structure their Monday to Saturdays in accordance with playing that additional game to try to have a bit of a trade-off. And you think that has to be in the minds of head coaches right now in assuring their guys, hey, we're going to make sure we're putting you in a position and having some balance over the course of the week to be sure that by the time we get to halfway or 2/3 of the season, you aren't feeling as much of a toll maybe as you're anticipating what you would feel by tacking on that extra game.
Were you afforded load management, Bill? Did you get Wednesday and Thursday veteran days like some of these guys do now?
Wednesday and Thursday during the season, no. But I will say this. Wednesday and Thursday, no. That didn't happen for me during my career in the National Football League. But what did actually happen is when I went to Buffalo in 1993, during training camp, they did load management. Actually, we had a rotation where one day I wouldn't practice, and Andre Reed and Don Beebe and Steve Tasker, they would make sure that they practiced the whole session of both days, but I wouldn't practice. And then we would just rotate. And so one day I would practice, and then Don Beebe would take the day off, or take a practice off, and then rotate. Andre would take one day off, and we all practice. So it just rotated around. So Marv Levy was ahead of his time in load management, and that's what we did. And same as with Bruce Smith and Thurman Thomas, those guys would take days off during training camp and just rest and relax, and just in a baseball cap and just watching in sneakers, just watching practices and making sure you're staying attentive mentally to the practice, but physically weren't doing it. So I can see that happening with the Colts as far as during the season. Definitely, giving some of the older guys some time off from practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and making sure that they're fresh come game day on Sunday or Monday or whatever may happen. So I see it happening, and Larry, you're right. It's going to be load management for a lot of teams throughout the NFL season.
Now, Mate has prepared all of these wonderful notes and illustrated exactly how this impacts the Indianapolis Colts season. So I'd be remiss if I didn't give us the whole breakdown here. So the regular season will start the weekend after Labor Day. Why can't I talk today? I'm stumbling over words. I don't know. Maybe I need more coffee.
I love Label Day.
Label Day. And 1 week later than usual, Super Bowl is going to move back a week. So now it's going to be the second Sunday.
Here's why it's not such a bad thing. Because if I was commissioner for a day, you probably know
You want
this.
Labor Day off? Is that what you're saying?
That'd be like the second or third thing.
You're going to be at Monroe.
The first thing I would do if I was commissioner of the NFL for a day, Bill, maybe you agree or disagree, in a 16-game schedule before all of this movement and adding an extra game, if I was commissioner for the day, the first thing I would do is move the Super Bowl from Sunday night of Super Bowl weekend to Saturday.
Let's just make the Monday after the Super Bowl a national holiday.
Well,
Keep Super Bowl Sunday.
I think that's where we're going, because it's going to be President's Day weekend. Kind of the best of both worlds here.
And today is Bill Brooks' birthday. Do you know what February 14th is?
That is your birthday.
That is Larra's birthday. So we're going to celebrate. That's
I like
so there
that.
we go.
I like
Super
that.
Bowl, post-Super Bowl Monday.
Hopefully, hopefully we're way past all this COVID stuff, and we're encouraging people to get together on Super Bowl Sunday.
Hopefully we're planning a parade in 2022.
Right.
There you go. There you go, Larra.
I think people, knowing they have the next day off, are way more inclined to get together and watch a Super Bowl.
Here's where my mindset is. I'm going to be on a paddle boat on the canal. I and I'm going to loft the Lombardi to Jeffrey Gorman, who's on another battle mode.
You better throw it to me because Gorman ain't catching it. Butterfinger Gorman ain't catching it.
We've gone like 30-something minutes and not had a Jeffrey Gorman reference since the beginning of the podcast, so I had to bring it back around. But what this means directly for the Indianapolis Colts, as I make the reference to launching the Lombardi off of a boat, that means the Indianapolis Colts welcome your reigning Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Bruce Arians, and a team with a lot of Indianapolis Colts ties, as we've discussed ad nauseum. Bill, your reaction to the Colts having an opportunity now to welcome a familiar foe in Tom Brady into Lucas Oil Stadium in the 2021 season and have the opportunity to go head-to-head with the reigning world champs?
I love it. I think it's great. I think when you're a team that aspires to get to a certain level and that wants to win the Super Bowl and be, of course, Super Bowl champs again, as Mr. Ursay has said that he wants multiple Super Bowl championships, you want to play the best. And right now, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are these reigning Super Bowl champs. They are the best team. So you want to go play them and see where, you stack up. I'm not saying that we are any less or better than them because we don't know what's going to happen at that time when we're playing, who has injuries, who doesn't have injuries, and things of that nature. But I'm excited about playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and going against Tom Brady, someone that I think the Colts fans, let's just say they know Tom Brady. How they feel about him, I think we all know.
They will come prepared.
Yes, exactly. They will come prepared when Tampa Bay Buccaneers come to Lucas Oil Stadium. So I'm excited about it. I love to see it. I love to see the offense go against Tampa Bay's Bucs def, and I love to see Darius Leonard against Tom Brady and all the weapons that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have. So I'm excited about it. It's a good challenge, and I'm looking forward to that game.
My favorite commentary wasn't in regards necessarily to the matchup of the teams themselves, but it was everyone on Twitter, Colts fans, saying this will still be a 1:00 kickoff, and they'll put like the Eagles and Jets in the like Sunday night or Monday night slot. Like,
no, it'll be the Washington football team against the Dallas Cowboys for the 800th time.
Right.
I mean, what are we doing?
Like, we'll still draw the 1:00
What are we doing
with this type of a matchup?
I'm telling you.
I love it. No,
but I think Bill's exactly right. Tampa Bay only bolsters the schedule next year. I mean, the Colts, if you look at it now, they play 7 games against playoff teams from last year, including the defending champs. 3 of those teams were in the divisional round last season. And then if you look deeper at the schedule here, Bill, just your thoughts on, you play the Raiders. They're going to be much improved. The Patriots got to be much improved. The Jaguars obviously have nowhere to go but up with Trevor Lawrence and, building off a 1-15 season. And they've got 11 draft picks and all of that. The Cardinals are going to be better next season. Don't forget about the Dolphins. They were essentially a playoff team last year, right? Because they won 10 games and they were the odd team out in that AFC puzzle. So I'm saying, Bill, this is a pretty difficult schedule next season, at least on paper. Things can change definitely, with the rest of free agency, the draft, and injuries and training camp and stuff like that. But if the Colts win 10 games again next season, I'm saying that's a really, really good accomplishment.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, like you say, you look at the schedule, you look at they're playing the Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson. So, there are some tough teams that the Colts are playing. And let's not forget Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. I think San Francisco's going to be a better team. They had
I do too.
Last year, I think they're going to be a better team. So, it's going to be a tough schedule for the Colts. And then, just the division opponents. Now, the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are a good football team. I think Crable has those guys playing well, and they're coached very well. So it's going to be a tough schedule for the Colts, but I think that's what you want. You want that. You want to have a tough schedule. Those are the teams they put in front of you. You want to go out there and do your best and show that you are capable of being those top teams in the National Football League.
Before we go into our new feature, just one word, I want to nerd out a little bit for a second. Am I the only one on the podcast that watched Aaron Rodgers host Jeopardy last night? Did anyone else see it?
I haven't seen it. I got it DVR'd.
Oh my gosh. Bill, have you seen it? Are you going to watch?
I did not see it. I was watching the Final Four
He was fantastic. He is the only Aaron Rodgers I like as much as the one that got beat by the Indianapolis Colts in the 2020 season and took the L at Lucas Oil Stadium last year. He's so good. He's so witty.
Really?
Oh,
good,
my gosh.
Good.
It was fantastic.
I read interviews.
I'm so excited.
I read his preparation, and obviously he
study.
Yeah, he film studied. He delved into how Alex Trebek went out of break, how he asked the questions, the inflection, how he corrected people with wrong answers, how he congratulated people with correct answers. I mean, he went all in, and I know they've got a rotating cast of hosts, obviously, in the new season. I can't imagine anybody doing a better job in paying tribute to the old host, and he said when he was on the show a couple years ago, one of the most wonderful experiences
He won
of
Celebrity
his life.
Jeopardy.
It's a daily thing where he watches the show and enjoys it, but being around the set and the cast and the crew, he said it was a dream job, and who knows? Maybe. I mean, we saw what Pat McAfee did in the prime of his career, so maybe he's got something going.
I'll give you guys a little snippet of Final Jeopardy. The category was like daytime TV personalities or something along those lines, and you make your wager before you see the question or the answer, I guess. And
yes, I've seen Jeopardy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, sorry, I'm giving you the layout of Jeopardy here. I'm game show splaining to you, but. So the one of the contestants did not know the answer, and luckily he didn't wager anything. So instead of giving a valid question response, he wrote, "Who decided to kick the field goal?"
Oh, I did see that. I saw that on social media. Yes.
Aaron's reaction was so priceless. One thing I want to go back to, I will miss so much having conversations with Anthony Costanzo because he is a total Jeopardy geek.
Yeah.
So we would always nerd out about it. Mark Glowinski, a closet Jeopardy fan as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, O-line. The Colts O-line is very in tune with the Jeopardy watching.
I don't know how many Jeopardy questions are there in a show. Let's just say there's I don't know 60. I'm good for 2.
Oh,
I'm good for 2.
come on.
Like if you want to feel stupid, watch Jeopardy.
I bet you're better than that.
I'm really good at Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah.
But Jeopardy kicks my every single night. Bill, how do you do on the double Jeopardies, pal?
On the double Jeopardy? Oh, Matt, I'm with you. I probably get maybe 1 or 2 answers right. It all depends on the subject as well.
Yeah, no question.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
now
if we had movie
need to have
quotes.
a podcast, a Colts Jeopardy podcast coming to your ears.
Don't even. I'll do it. Don't even start. I will do it. But next week, you know what's coming now.
I love it.
I tell you what. And you talked about the offensive line. I bet you the offensive line would probably do the best of all the groups on the team, because offensive linemen, they're very, very smart, and they communicate very well, and they talk about a whole different variety of subjects.
Yeah, those are different ducks in that room. Absolutely.
Yes. So I bet you the offensive linemen would probably do the best if you had a team Jeopardy against certain groups on the NFL team.
I love it. Well, that leads us to a little game show of our own, one that Mate has crafted called Just One Word.
Now I wish I had game show music, but I dropped the ball.
Oh, do you want me to stretch this out a little bit to tap dance so you can find some time?
Maybe I get the theme song from Card Sharks or something.
Oh, I was always a big Price is Right fan. I always wanted to be one of those suitcase gals,
Yeah, I never watched the Price is Right. To this day, I've never watched an episode without being ill. Like if I was sick
like
and
you're
at
home from school,
I would watch The Price is Right.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, with your ginger ale and your saltines next to you.
I've never healthy watched The Price is Right.
We need to change that.
Price is Right is one of my favorites. I love Price is Right. I love Card Shark. What was the show where they had the whammies?
Press Your Luck.
Was that Match Game?
Press Your Luck.
Yeah, man, I love all those game shows.
I was doing Hollywood Squares. I love that.
Yep.
Yes.
On occasion, when I get on a Zoom, just in my mind, I have like a flashback to watching Hollywood.
I was thinking the Brady Bunch when I'm on a Zoom because of the squares and boxes, right?
All right.
Yes.
As I'm going now to explain to you this game, as I explained to you Jeopardy earlier unnecessarily.
This one I think we need explaining.
So just one word, as if that's not clear enough. You will finish the thought with just one word and explain why that word is appropriate. And if Jeffrey Gorman were playing, you know that it would not be one word. He would have like 4 or 5 words.
It would be a saying.
It would, yes, exactly. So, Bill, we're going to start with you. Finding an offensive tackle in the draft is a blank for the Colts.
A priority for the Colts.
Dang it! That was my word, Bill. Shoot.
I think it's a priority. When you just made a trade for a quarterback such as Carson Wentz, and you want to definitely make sure that he stays in rhythm. One of the things that you want to do is make sure you have your offensive line being solidified. And the Colts have a great offensive line as it is, with Kelly and Nelson and Glowinski and Braden Smith. Those individuals up there, and you did a nice job in free agency and signing some guys in free agency that give you some depth, like Tevy and Sam Tevy. So those are the individuals, and also Julian Davenport. So those guys can give you some depth, but I still think you need a offensive tackle that you can draft, hopefully somewhere in there that will give you some stability on the offensive line, help you give some stability on the offensive line. And I go with drafting a rookie, because if you draft a rookie tackle and you have Quentin Nelson next to him, that gives that tackle hopefully some comfort knowing that you have an established all-pro guard next to you that will not leave you alone out there and will help you where he needs to help you. So I think that will go well for the Colts by drafting a tackle that they can plug in there. And they might not be able to plug him in the first game of the season. It might take them a few weeks. And that's where you have the Sam Tevis and the Julian Davenports that can possibly play over there until this young guy is ready to step in and fill those shoes of playing left tackle for the Indianapolis Colts.
Playing next to Quentin Nelson is just like success by osmosis, right?
And Ryan Kelly, too. Yeah. Don't forget about the center. Like, that matters, too.
Exactly, I agree. And the center sets the offensive line. He's the one making the calls as far as which way the line has to slide and who they might have to pick up and things of that nature. So it's if they can find an offensive tackle, that's going to do wonders. And like I said, when you have that quarterback as Carson Wentz there, you want to make sure you do everything you can in your ability to make sure that he is secure back there. Not just secure for Carson Wentz, but open up the holes for Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack as well, and other running backs, Naeem Hines and Jordan Wilkins as well. So those are things you want, and that's only going to make your team better.
What's your word, Matt?
All right, finding an offensive tackle in the draft is I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to say a luxury for the Colts, right? And the reason I say that is I agree with Bill. I really like what the Colts have done in free agency along the offensive line. Chris Reed, Sam Tevy, Julian Davenport gives you a lot more depth at the reserve positions compared to what you had on the roster this time last year. You don't really have to force it at 21 with the tackle. If that guy's not there, you've got options, right? I mean, you can go somewhere else at 21. You can kind of stick to your board because of what you've done with some of the moves you've made in free agency. You know, if defensive end is there, if wide receiver is there, if corner's there, you've got those options in free agency. Plus, again, the internal option is there if you want to move Quentin Nelson out or Braden Smith from the right side to the left side. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm saying it's still a luxury for the Colts to pick tackle at 21 if, in fact, tackle is best player available when they pick in the first round.
And there is good tackle depth and talent available throughout this 2021 NFL draft.
So my point is, like, let's say 2 or 3 tackles were taken ahead of them at 21. You know, the first or second pass rusher is still there. You know, just generally in principle, they can stick to their board knowing they don't necessarily have to reach for a tackle because they have internal options now.
I agree with you, Matt, on that. I'm sorry, Larra, but I agree with you on that. I don't think you should ever reach for anyone just because you feel like, oh, we need a tackle, so we have to reach, and that guy's really not a first-round pick. He's maybe a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick. I don't think you change your board. And I think all of us know Chris Ballard, he's not going to do that. We all know he's not going to go chase someone. And
no question.
If the guy is not a value that he sets for them at the 21st pick, he's not going to take the individual.
And, Bill, you never have to apologize. Jeffrey would have just steamrolled right over me, never even acknowledged that I was speaking, so you're totally fine. He's such a gentleman, that Bill Brooks. All right, with T.Y. Hilton coming back in free agency, the Colts' need for receivers in the draft is blank. Why don't we start with you this time, Mayte?
Okay, I'm going to use the word prevalent.
Ooh!
It's still prevalent.
Word of the day for you right there. I love that.
Because T.Y. Hilton is back, but it's a reported 1-year deal, so who knows what he's going to do next offseason. Going forward after this year, you don't know who that number one wide receiver is going to be. And plus, you can never have enough receivers. You can never have enough playmakers. Carson Wentz could use all the skill sets possible. That goes for any quarterback for that matter. The draft is loaded again at receiver, and you can probably get some guys who can contribute even on day 3 of the draft. You can complement with Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Desmond Patman. That's just going to breed competition. That's going to make everybody better, and you could possibly be loaded at that position. So I'm saying it's still prevalent, even though T.Y. Hilton is back.
Bill, what's your word?
I like it. I was kind of playing on T.Y. actually, that and going with the kind of ghost thing. Said with T.Y. Hilton coming back in free agency, the Colts' need for receivers in the draft has disappeared. Just like
okay. So he completely disagrees with me.
Yeah, no, I really don't disagree with you. I think it's disappeared, but meaning I don't think it's a big need. I think there's some great receivers in the draft that they can draft, but I'm looking for Paris Campbell to come back and hopefully that he can stay healthy and give the Colts a full season, because I think that he can be a big plus for the Colts receiver. We have T.Y. back, you have Paris Campbell,
yep.
You have Michael Pittman, then you have Desmond Patton. You have those 4 guys right there. Let's not forget Zach Pascal. You have DeMichael Harris. And, so I think those guys, if they step up and do their job, and they're young guys, T.Y. is the oldest guy there. So I think if those guys can play and step up and produce like we think they can produce, I don't think it's a big need that you have to have a receiver. I think you can wait until later rounds and possibly draft a receiver that you can develop over the years and that he can come in and contribute down the road. But we'll see what happens. I just think it's disappeared.
My word is moderate. The need for receivers in the draft is moderate to me because when I look at...
So you're taking my take and Bill's take and
I'm
right down the middle.
I'm right in the middle. Exactly what I did. And that is because you do have so much youth already in that room with guys like Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal and Paris, who has yet to really play even a full season. And Desmond Patman is essentially kind of on a redshirt year because he was a rookie last year but didn't play. You have that supplemented by guys like Ashton Dulin and DeMichael Harris, as Bill just pointed out, because I think what we're also going to see is, in addition to that wide receiver room, I think there's still some play to be made at tight end. So I think that the need at wide receiver is somewhat diminished because I think to some degree you're going to reinforce the strength that you have in your tight end room adjacent to Jack Doyle and Mo Alley-Cox. I think that there's something still to be done there that will offset maybe some of the need that there could be for wide receiver in terms of over the next 6 months or so.
I totally agree with that. And in terms of, prioritizing the offense as of right now, as we sit here and talk, absolutely tight end is more of a need than wide receiver. I mean, we know that Frank Reich loves himself some tight ends. So,
and you saw a lot of that with Trey Burton last year when he was healthy. You saw some flashes.
You did. You did. And with him still being a free agent, that's obviously a little interesting. And let's not forget about Noah Tongian, because I think he has some of those traits in that skill set. We'll see if that can translate on the field at the NFL level. But, I would definitely say that tight end, as of right now, higher need than receiver.
All right, the last of our just one word statements. You can find blank defensive ends in the first few rounds of the upcoming draft. Noted first few rounds, so we don't necessarily have to say their first round. Could be those 1, 2, and 3 rounds. Bill, your word there about the defensive ends in this upcoming draft.
You can find impactful defensive ends in the first few rounds of the upcoming draft. I think there are some very, very good rush ends in the NFL draft this year. I think ones that can definitely be impactful to help you out. And it doesn't, like you say, have to be in the first round or second round. I think we all know of rush ends that have played for the Indianapolis Colts that have been very impactful that weren't first round pick. Robert Mathis, he was later rounds and he was very impactful for the Colts. And as far as a rush in and causing havoc, having over 100 sacks in his career. So I think there are some ends and rush ends out there in college that can come in and be impactful and helpful for the Colts. But piggybacking off that, I really would love to see the Colts possibly look to see if Justin Houston is to come back and someone that they can, they draft a young guy and they have Justin Houston there to kind of help them and just kind of help the guy get acclimated to the National Football League and kind of be a mentor to that young guy. So hopefully that still can happen and the Colts can move forward.
All right, I'm going with a synonym of impactful. So I'm going with quality. Quality defensive ends. Most mock drafts have about 7 defensive ends with first or second grades on them. There's only about 3 defensive ends that the most draft gurus think are worthy of first-round picks. And ironically, they're kind of mid to late round evaluations, which is right where the Colts are sitting at pick 21. There may not be the Chase Youngs in this draft where they're going to immediately come in as a rookie and get 10 sacks, but you can get players, to Bill's point, you can get players that you can mold into solid edge players for the long term inside this draft.
All right. Well, that is a wrap on this week's Colts official podcast. Holding it down in studio, your substitute teachers, myself, Larra Overton, alongside the voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, and joined this week by our esteemed colleague and the birthday boy,
absolutely,
Bill Brooks, giving us all the insight and the knowledge and the perspective on all things as we look ahead to the draft later this month, a huge offseason, and a start of a lengthened 2021 regular season with 17 games to look forward to. Bill, go get yourself some cake, make a birthday wish and celebrate this, my friend.
Well, I will get some cake. My wife is making me a cake, so I will get some cake. I know I shouldn't be eating cake, but I am going to enjoy some.
On your birthday. Calories don't count on your birthday, Bill.
Well, tell my stomach that.
What's your flavor?
You get a homemade cake on your birthday.
What cake?
That's doing it.
I need to know.
Coconut frosting.
Oh.
Yes, coconut frosting, yes. So that's one of my favorites. So she's making that from scratch, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, so excited for you and Mrs. Brooks to get to have a lovely
I'll have to let her know when my birthday is there, Bill.
Well, you let me know, and I will tell her.
Oh,
fantastic. Happy birthday again, Bill. Thanks a lot.
We'll be back next week.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys soon.